It was a crisp Saturday morning in late October 2024, the kind of day in Willow Creek, a quiet suburb of Jefferson County, where the air smells like fresh leaves and the world feels like it's taking a deep breath. I'd just finished washing my truck in the driveway, the sun glinting off the polished hood, making it look showroom new. My coffee sat steaming in a mug on the porch steps, and I was mentally planning a barbecue for the afternoon if the weather stayed this perfect. My garage door was open, showing off the workbench I'd spent weeks organizing, every wrench, hammer, and screwdriver in its place, the concrete floor swept clean. These moments, when everything feels just right, have a way of lulling you into a false sense of security, like the universe is setting you up for a punch you never see coming. Then it happened. A sharp, ear-splitting crack snapped me out of my reverie, like someone had dropped a sledgehammer on metal. I spun around just in time to see a guy in a cheap-looking uniform swing a baton down on my truck's windshield. Glass shattered everywhere, glittering across my driveway like a busted chandelier. Tiny shards stung my arms as I stood there, dumbfounded, trying to process what the hell was happening. This wasn't a car accident or a random prunk, it was deliberate, in broad daylight, on my own property. The guy stepped back, and I got a good look at him. Mid-40s, wearing a polyester getup with Neighborhood Safety Crew printed in peeling letters on the back. His plastic badge, labeled Emergency Enforcement, looked like something you'd buy at a costume shop, gold lettering already curling at the edges. His belt sagged like it was borrowed, and his boots were too big, but that baton in his hand was real, and so was the spiderweb of cracks ruining my windshield. "You're in violation of emergency safety codes, sir," he barked, pointing the baton at me like I was supposed to cower. His voice cracked on emergency, which might have been funny if I wasn't so pissed and confused. "This vehicle's a fire hazard, blocking critical access routes." I looked around my driveway, same spot I always park, same quiet street with standard suburban houses, no emergency routes in sight. Nothing about this made sense. My brain finally kicked into gear, and I grabbed my phone, hitting record. His whole vibe shifted from fake cop to nervous amateur the second he saw the camera. "Stop filming. This is an official assessment. Recordings prohibited," he shouted, his voice climbing higher with every word. I kept the camera rolling and demanded to see his ID. He fumbled for a laminated card that looked like a bad Photoshop job, with a blurry municipal seal that didn't match anything local. As he waved his fake badge, something fell from his pocket, a brown wallet, landing open on the concrete. Business cards and scribbled notes spilled out. Still filming, I scooped it up before he noticed. The cards read Safety Solutions, LLC, with his name, Ethan Carter, printed clear as day, alongside handwritten quotas and dollar amounts tied to local addresses. One note listed my house with garage access circled in red. This wasn't random, this was a scam, and I was holding proof. "Your badge says Madison County, but we're in Jefferson," I said, zooming in on his card. "And HOAs don't have emergency powers to smash private property." His face went from red to ghost white in seconds, and he started backing toward a beat-up sedan parked sloppily across the street. But then he stopped, eyeing my phone with a look that made my gut twist. He glanced at my open garage, and I noticed fresh scratches on my fire alarm housing, bright, metallic marks that hadn't been there yesterday. This guy wasn't just a con artist. He was dangerous. That's when I heard the familiar creak of a screen door. Evelyn Harper, the retired lawyer from across the street, marched over with a coffee mug in one hand and a thick folder in the other. Evelyn's the kind of neighbor you want in a crisis, sharp as a tack, with a memory for legal details that could make a judge sweat. She didn't bother with Ethan. Instead, she turned to the neighbors now peeking out from porches and windows, drawn by the sound of shattering glass. "Morning, folks," she called, her voice calm but commanding, like she was addressing a courtroom. "Anyone seen this man's official city ID or proof of his enforcement powers?" The question hung in the air, and Ethan's nervous twitching told me he knew he was screwed. He tried doubling down, waving his badge and yelling about municipal codes, but Evelyn stepped closer, peering at his credentials like she was inspecting a forged check. "This seal's from a county that doesn't exist in our state," she said, flipping open her folder to reveal highlighted regulations and legal notes. "And the statute you're citing was repealed years ago." The crowd grew, neighbors in bathrobes, clutching coffee, murmuring about similar fake notices they'd gotten. One guy, Tom from down the street, shouted that his sister got a letter about her fence violating some mystery code. Evelyn scribbled notes as people shared stories, building a case right there in the street. Ethan, panicking, started making calls, muttering about needing legal backup. That's when I noticed papers scattered on his sedan's dashboard and a laptop glowing in the passenger seat. Evelyn caught my eye and nodded toward the car. "James," she said, using my name like we'd known each other forever. "We need to talk about what's been happening around here." An hour later, a police cruiser rolled up, lights flashing but no siren. Officer Ryan Powell stepped out, calm and professional, scanning the scene like he'd seen it all before. He went straight for Ethan, asking for ID and documentation. Ethan handed over his fake badge with a smirk, but Powell's face hardened as he examined it. "This hologram's printed, not embedded, and enforcement is misspelled," he said, holding it to the light. He radioed dispatch to check Ethan's neighborhood safety crew, and within minutes, they confirmed it didn't exist. Powell cuffed Ethan for criminal mischief and impersonation, and as he did, more papers fell from Ethan's pockets, mails about quotas, lists of addresses, and a note about my house's fire safety vulnerabilities. "Residents of Willow Creek," she announced through a microphone, "we're addressing this morning's compliance incident and conducting urgent safety assessments." She gestured at my wrecked truck like it was evidence of neighborhood failure. Neighbors weren't buying it. Tom waved a fake notice he'd gotten, and others shouted questions about her authority. Victoria's cool cracked when she snapped, "Resist compliance, and we'll recommend utility suspensions and code enforcement." The crowd erupted, and I recorded every word as she admitted to encouraging residents to relocate if they couldn't afford standards. Evelyn whispered, "That's extortion, James. Keep filming." That night, alone in my office, I dug into Victoria's website, linked via QR codes on new notices plastered across the neighborhood. The Community Compliance Database listed my house with fake violation reports and photos alongside dozens of others. Domain records showed it was registered 18 months ago to Property Enhancement Group, tied to similar scams in 6 states. My printer jammed mid-document, and my lights flickered as I downloaded evidence. Outside, a sedan idled, its occupant watching my window. At 1 a.m., soft tapping on my glass made my heart stop. A figure lurked just beyond my security light, circling my house before vanishing. I was in deep, and they knew it. Evelyn showed up at 2 a.m. with coffee and her own research, confirming the endgame: harass families until they sell cheap, then flip properties through connected firms. She'd found records of homes sold below market after months of fake violations. My phone buzzed with an anonymous text: "Stop now, or it's not just glass you'll clean up." The sedan was gone, but the threat lingered. We kept working, cross-referencing forged inspector signatures. One name, Harold Grayson, appeared on dozens of fake reports, despite his legit certifications from years ago. I met Harold at a diner Monday morning. He was in his late 60s, weary, with guilt in his eyes. "They used my signature after I refused their deal," he said, sliding me original inspection files. "I retired to escape, but they forged everything." Ethan burst in, sitting next to Harold, smirking. "You're part of this, old man. Unless you want your career ruined," he hissed. Evelyn walked in, citing Ethan's bail conditions and obstruction of justice. He bolted, but Harold's warning stuck. "They've marked your house, James. They won't stop until you're gone." Tuesday night, I went live from my garage, floodlights blazing, red safety violator, paint still fresh on the door. "I'm James Lawson, exposing an HOA scam targeting families nationwide," I said, showing Ethan's quota sheets and forged documents. Thousands watched, sharing their own stories. An FBI agent, Emily Torres, commented, "We've tracked this for months. Your evidence seals our RICO case." My heart raced as viewers flooded the chat with similar scams. Then Victoria stormed in, trying to spin her narrative on my stream. "We guide communities to maintain standards," she said, but crumbled when I pressed about forged signatures. "Some residents aren't a fit," she snapped, admitting to targeting families. Neighbors rallied, holding signs as sirens wailed. Police arrested Victoria mid-sentence. Her confession lived for thousands. Months later, in a federal courthouse in Ashford City, I testified alongside Evelyn and Harold. Victoria got 10 years for fraud and extortion. Ethan, 5 for destruction and intimidation. The case exposed $3 million in illegal fees and forced sales across 40 communities. A victim fund covered losses, and new laws mandated HOA transparency. Our neighborhood formed a real HOA, led by Evelyn, with Harold advising on safety. Home values stabilized, and families stayed. Standing in my driveway, washing my new truck, I marveled at how one smashed windshield sparked justice. Ordinary people, armed with evidence and grit, took down a criminal empire. But questions linger. Would you have fought back or paid to make it stop? What if your family was targeted? Move or stand your ground? How far would you go to protect your home? Drop a comment, hit like, subscribe, and support the fight against fake authority. Stay sharp, stay steady, and let's keep exposing the madness together.